Did you know that there's probably more, but there are more than 2,300 different religious identifications in the United States alone? I just want you to think about that. 2,300 ways to worship in the United States. So when they say different religions, they're talking about people that have practices, they have some kind of text, some kind of way of being in the world. They probably have a place where they meet, temple, church, synagogue, some kind of meeting place. 2,300. That's a lot, right? So when we're talking about audience analysis, God, anything is possible. Anything is possible when you're thinking about the students in class. What is their religion? What does that tell you, though? If you're a good speaker, what does that tell you that you need to keep in consideration? Well, I think what it tells you is this. It tells you that you're not sure what people might believe or not believe in. I mean, that's not including, I have to tell you right now, in class, on a regular basis, I have students, when I do demographic surveys, I have students on a regular basis tell me that they're atheist or agnostic. Like, that's a normal thing. Okay, so that's not, atheist means you don't believe in God or anything like that. Agnostic means you're not sure that there is anything. Okay, but atheist is like, you live and then you're dead, pretty much. Okay, so knowing that, if you decide to do your speech that involves a religious symbol or anything that has to do with religion, you need to be really clear on the fact that your religion is for you, right? And you can talk about that, but not to try to change people's minds, but be respectful that other people might believe something different. That's the key, being respectful. And to not use public speaking, especially this class, as a pulpit to spread your word, whatever that is, that's not respectful to people who have their own beliefs. And religion basically shows us or shapes, influences how we see the world, tells us how we should be treating others, and helps us make the decisions in our own lives. Socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status means class. It's based on occupation, income, okay? And also, those are the basic things, and how much money you make. Like, how much money is your, what can you afford? Are you, what kind of household are you? Middle income, low income, poverty, high income? What is in our society, we call it class, right? That affects not only what you know. Oftentimes, people that are, what's associated with high income people is they're educated people. That's not necessarily true, but it's usually that association. And you could be poor and still have a good education. But oftentimes education is linked to being able to make money. So we make those generalizations. Again, not always true, but in most cases it is. So how does that again affect how you do your analysis of your audience? Who's in your audience? What do you know about your audience? Political affiliation. There are lots of different political parties. In the world we live, when we mostly talk about Democrat or Republican. So we're talking about someone who's more liberal or progressive, which you can be a Democrat and not be progressive. You could just be liberal in your thoughts. Or there's progressive Democrats, and there's Republicans that are like middle of the road Republicans. And then there's conservative Republicans or evangelical Republicans. So understanding the political parties, that has a lot to do with how we vote on issues, what we care about, what's important to us, decisions we make about our bodies, ourselves, how we spend our money, what we spend our money on. And so that pretty much, those are basically the things that you want to think about in audience analysis, is thinking about all of that and how all those pieces fit together as you think about who's in your audience, what are they about, what do they care about. And what you're after always is to seek that common ground. So if you're a very progressive person and you're in a class where most people are pretty conservative in their values, if you want to talk about something that you consider progressive, but you don't think they're going to be open to it, ask yourself, how will you talk about that to seek common ground with your audience? How you find a commonality with them, right? How will you find something that they'll care about? How will you put it in a way that they'll care about? So the last things you want to do with audience analysis is you want to think about prior exposure. We talked about that already. I kind of alluded to that. Is how much exposure has that group of people in terms of for your class had exposure to? What do they know about it? Your job is always to bring something new. What do you think their disposition is? Right? Do you think they're going to be sympathetic to what you're talking about? Students are talking about COVID. Of course, we're sympathetic because we're all going through it, right? Will they be hostile? That's the example of you're a progressive person. You want to talk about a progressive issue to a conservative audience. How will you do that and find common ground? And are they neutral? If they're neutral, which sometimes neutral can equal apathy, it doesn't have to be. It means people are sitting on the fence. They don't really care one way or the other, right? I want you guys to think about that probably before you were born, or maybe when you were really small, but probably before you were born, we didn't have recycling. There was no blue can for recycling. Nobody recycled. They just threw the trash in the bin. That's it. Wasn't even our consciousness. People were neutral about it. Did they want to help the environment? Sure. Everybody wants to live in a clean world. Nobody wants to live with trash all around them, at least not in the culture that we live in. We like it clean, right? We like it clean. We like it neat. We don't like to see dirt or it to be dirty or unkept. So if that's truth, how do you convince an audience that they gonna have to take action, do a new action? They're kind of sitting on the fence. Maybe they want it clean, but they don't really want to do it. That's like a neutral issue. Well, it took time for people and still taking time for people. But pretty soon people are now recycled. They think what goes in recycling, what doesn't. But before that, people had to think about it. People just forgot. They threw it in the trash and then realized, oh, that could have gone to recycling. But now we're trained to think about that. So if you have a neutral audience, that's what you're after. You may not see the results of if you're trying to give a speech and try to persuade people to do something. You might not see the results, but you have planted a seed. I hope that that helps you in your audience analysis. And please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, bye.